Hello everyone and welcome back to Tabletop. I'm your host Trent, and today I'll be going through a few choices that Wizards of the Coast and the Rules Committee have made in regards to Secret Lair product that are currently echoing throughout the community. There is a lot of negativity and indignation surrounding the decisions made by both parties, and I want to streamline it as much as possible so that we are able to vocalize what exactly it is that we're getting upset on. Because for some strange reason, it feels like they are sidestepping the issue that we are having, and instead of actually answering our questions, they kind of gaslight us to, I don't know why, to bring us away from the actual problem. Regardless, we're going to go through it. Let's start with the Wizard side of things. They recently released a 40-minute segment on Magic the Gathering Weekly, or Weekly MTG, that is dedicated towards the Secret Lair The Walking Dead, as well as an answer post on Mark Rosewater's blog in regards to some of the questions that we have. However, the more we look into this, or I look into it, it feels as if they are dancing around the issue without actually addressing what's being said.
I think first and foremost, Secret Lair is our testing ground. It's our skunk works. It's a new platform that lets us try things that we just wouldn't be able to do if we were trying to fit them into a set or a regular product. And so you've seen that with art, for example. The examples you gave are places where we've kind of pushed the boundaries of what art might be kind of allowed to be on a Magic card. We're never going to do a set where the art direction matches what we saw with the Goblins cards that we did last year. But here we can take that chance and we can do that experiment. So Secret Lair is a place to kind of run those tests and make Magic as a whole better for it.
The first issue is that Secret Lair is part of the Magic the Gathering lineup. It's a place where experimentation and release of alternate artwork has brought down prices and made staples more readily available. But when you bring this philosophy into creating new mechanically unique cards, black border cards for that matter, you do so by injecting these untested cards into numerous formats of Magic the Gathering that have been crafted over the years. This is disrespectful to the people who enjoy your game and to the people who work for you. Your artists, card designers, and the people who spent hours, days, months to bring a balanced set to the game is given the middle finger because you want to test just how far it is you can push the people who support you. Also, I wondered where the idea for the J sneakers came from because it seemed kind of left field, but looking at this picture over here, I think it's safe to say, and I'm perfectly content to know, where the idea stemmed from, even if I don't necessarily agree with it. Let's turn our attention away from the weekly MTG and move on to Mark Rosewater's blog, titled Some Answers. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Mark Rosewater is the lead designer or head designer of Magic the Gathering since 2003. And he is usually the first person that is liaisoning between new sets coming out as well as what's coming up. The first question that we are going to look into is, why are these cards not silver bordered? And the answer given by Mark Rosewater is, silver bordered cards are treated by some Magic players as being less than black border cards, and thus have a stigma to them. Some players refuse to play with players that have silver border cards in their deck. We didn't want players thinking these cards were something they couldn't play with. I understand the stigma and where he's coming from. The fact is, some playgroups are okay with silver border cards and others aren't, because some of them are just bonkers. These Walking Dead cards aren't mechanically game-changing, and have been designed, so they say, to be at a very casual level that won't break the game. Now, they said from the start that these cards won't be very strong, but let's think about that for a second, okay? The Walking Dead is a major property owned by AMC, and we are collaborating with Magic the Gathering or Wizards of the Coast to produce a product that will have our characters in it. And let's ignore the fact that it's The Walking Dead now. Let's say later down the line they have different collaborators, different franchises. Do you think that those franchises are going to be okay with having their poster boy/girl being a subpar card? No, they will not. In any scenario, the main poster child of that particular franchise is going to be strong, as indicated by Rick Grimes, which we finally got to see today. He isn't overpowered, but he is not exactly something that is casual. He is a staple for mono-white human tribal cards or decks because of what he gives. For a 4-drop, you can choose 2 of any 3 of these keywords, as well as pump up the other humans inside your field, all for a cost of 4. That's not casual. That is actually a pretty decent card, which can only be obtained between the 4th and the 12th of October. Unless AMC decides that we're allowed to reprint these in the future, they are effectively on a reserved list. And this is where the main controversy comes from. We as a community are being targeted and exploited through secret lairs using fear of missing out tactics. If this was released as a supplement set with 50 cards in it that had been tested and balanced with unlimited print run and the internal formats in mind, I don't think there will be that much of a controversy surrounding them. At least not for the same reasons. Which is why when you start using these predatory techniques to exploit the good people of the Commander community, I, as well as everyone else, know exactly what you're trying to do. Let's move back to Mark's post to the second question. Why don't these cards use the Godzilla alternate skin technology? The relevant part of his answer is this. The Walking Dead cards are sold by themselves. That meant we wanted them to maximize their appeal as a box set. Putting extra names on them was aesthetically unattractive. That said, we did build in a way to do backwards version of the Godzilla skins. If needed, we can print a Magic IP version of these cards with a Magic name and creative concept/art. Right, so you're telling me you didn't put in the extra names on these cards because they are aesthetically unpleasing. And you wanted to sell the Walking Dead cards, clearly. But you're saying it's okay to make the Magic equivalent of these cards aesthetically unpleasing, as you say, because you know for a fact that people who play Magic the Gathering will buy it regardless. I don't understand why Magic is the side that needs to compromise. Personally, I feel that the IP trying to cross over to our game should be the ones to compromise in terms of aesthetics, not the other way around. So by choosing to give the more aesthetically pleasing style to the crossover as opposed to the Magic equivalent, it feels like you have your priorities a little bit mixed up here. But let's move back to the Magic the Gathering Weekly and bring our attention towards their attitude towards reprints.
Is reprints. Reprints will always be part of Secret Lair, and Secret Lair gives us a really exciting new tool to meet player demand for certain reprints cards that we want to get out there, but we wouldn't normally. We might otherwise have to kind of wait until 2 years from now there's a set that might go in. Now all of a sudden we can kind of speed up those timelines and get those out there. So those are a few of the things that Secret Lair does for us. There's a lot of new stuff.
Let me stop you right there. We don't need Secret Lair for reprints. As demonstrated by Commander Collection Green, it is perfectly viable to print out much needed staples and reprints in this form that supports your local game store. The same game stores that host your events and bring your community together to generate hype around your product. And we're doing all of this without the need of secret lairs. We don't have to wait for these reprints. Just send the reprints off to the local game store. We'll buy it. There's always someone.
There's a lot of new stuff.
Okay. Mark, I want to stick with you because one of the criticisms we've heard recently is that Secret Lair fans thought that what Secret Lair was new art treatments for existing cards.
Right.
And we've said some things in that space. And so what do you say to those fans who believed that that's what Secret Lair was and should be?
Right. Like Magic, Secret Lair will always evolve. Like the game of Magic has been so successful over its long history because it never stays complacent. It never sits still. It's always trying new things. Secret Lair will do the same. And so kind of the first year you saw, we were really focused on art. That was definitely where our emphasis was with the launch of Secret Lair. Frankly, that's kind of the low-hanging fruit. We kind of know what it looks like to put new art on a new card. We have some sense of how that will go. So we've done a lot of experiments there. We will continue. Secret Lair will certainly continue to do a lot of stuff with new art on reprints. That's absolutely a big piece of the puzzle. But as we have new ideas and we want to run new tests and we think we might be onto new ways to make the game more joyful for more people, if those experiments can be run through Secret Lair, we will continue to evolve because it's the best place for us to kind of push the boundaries and learn the lessons that we need to learn for the health of the overall game in these contained ways.
Running tests to make the game more joyful. And with all this talk of experimentation, makes me wonder if there is some way that Wizards could conduct these experiments before releasing them to the public, or if they want to experiment with some sort of card idea, if there's some sort of special border they can give these cards so that we know that it's just a test run and there is no way that any of this needs to be a thing.
One of the times I feel like, man, the audience just must not be seeing what we're seeing when we thought this through in the first place. I do think definitely in the case of this new IP crossover / sales model experiment that we're running here, that we didn't exactly lay the groundwork for those conversations very well. We just kind of sprung it on people. So yeah, there's an amount of shock and surprise for sure. That's why we're on here today, to try to talk through some of that stuff. But in general, it's just we do want to try stuff. A lot of it's going to be different from what you're used to. I know change is hard. I know people get used to certain things, and they don't like to see those things upended. And I appreciate that very much as someone who's been playing Magic myself for well over 20 years. But we're trying to do what's best for the game as a whole, to keep the community growing, to keep everything as vibrant as possible. And so, bear with us. We're going to make a few missteps along the way, but in general, we are trying to make awesome stuff. That is just, top to bottom, what motivates all of us every single day.
See the vision that you see. What the hell are you on about? Anyone can tell the collaborations between big IPs is a great thing for businesses and the game, because it brings fans to the game and it brings the players to the show. It's a win-win situation, because we don't have an issue of the product itself. We have an issue with how you're executing this whole secret lair thing and how you're giving these products to the players. If this was an unlimited print run, none of this will be an issue.
What does Secret Lair look like in the future?
Yeah, it will. I mean, in terms of details, the reality is we don't know. Secret Lair, one of the great things about it is we don't have unlike our main sets, we don't have years and years of Secret Lairs planned out. We don't need to commit in that way. So we're learning every day. We're taking the feedback and we're adjusting. Through all that, though, it will be our place to innovate, to do things that we think will be fun and that will make Magic a better game for more people. And so it will continue. We'll try different combinations. We'll try different approaches. We'll try different executions. But through all of that, it will be a place where we're trying new things, and we are trying to learn the lessons that we really think can make Magic a more fun game and a more kind of beautiful experience for a wider audience.
Please stop. Just stop. It's okay to be spontaneous in regards to artwork, because you know what? The more artwork that you make, the more reprints that we'll get, even if they're $50 a piece. But when you start making spontaneously unique game mechanics or cards that you can only get through a secret lair without any planning, that's where we have to draw the line. Designers don't spend months and years trying to balance out the standard format and Commander just for secret lairs to come in to shit over all their work, because you guys have no constraints in terms of time frame and limitations in regards how fast you can release product. The artist created a beautiful piece of work and you just came in to smear your crap all over it, Not to say that the state of standard at the moment is perfectly good. I have a lot of qualms in regards to the Omniband instead of the Omniband, but that's for a different video.
Secret Lair going direct to consumer, it enables us to have this opportunity where we can just kind of hold this thing up and say, does anyone out there interested in this? Does this speak to you? We'll try our hardest to get it to you.
Yeah, unless you live in Brazil.
Aaron, we're going to move on to talking about one of the biggest pieces of feedback we've received this week about the cards being mechanically unique and black bordered. So that is not something that we've done outside of booster packs lightly in the past. We did mechanically unique buy-a-box cards, which we recently stopped doing. We did the mechanically unique convention and book exclusives, so that's the Nalathni Dragon, Mana Crypt kind of thing. And we stopped doing that nearly 20-ish years ago or something like that. And those are the two big examples in Magic's history. So is this different? How is this different? Why did we go down this path?
I mean, I can see why people draw those parallels. I think there are some similarities there. the buy a box thing, I think mostly worked and should have worked. The Athreoses and Renin series and those kinds of cards, the Fire Song and Sunspeaker, I think those were exactly right. They did exactly what we wanted. They were just kind of a cool additional throw in that some people really enjoyed playing with. They were hardly, must-haves for any sort of competitive balance. They were just some texture, and that I wish that how it had been the whole time. We may still be doing them now. Nexus of Fate stands out as kind of the outlier there that everyone's worried about us duplicating.
It wasn't just Nexus of Fate. I like how he skips out the Throne of Eldring buy a box promo candidate Return King, who was a powerhouse in the standard format in the Fires of Invention deck. I know because I made it all the way to Mythic using Fires of Invention. He is a powerful card inside that meta. And the only way to get him was to buy a box, a booster box, a buy a box promo, or that one challenger deck that no one got because it got banned later. Also, why are we talking about buy a box promos and novel exclusives? The question at hand is the problem with the mechanically unique cards that you were printing inside Secret Lair. Nothing else.
Casual crowd with these. We're aiming these at a group of people for whom customization, personalization are the driving motivations of why they want to play with certain cards, not strictly power level by any means. And so we get to stay away from the you have to have this in order to be competitive. That is not at all anywhere we want to go with the cards in these products. And instead they're just if this is your jam, go ahead and check it out and get a copy. And if it's not, then that's okay. You have 1,000 other decks you can be building or commanders you could be using instead.
That's not the point at all. We know we have options, but when you target the player base and put these cards behind a timed paywall, that's when we get upset. They are not readily available. They are put in a product line that exploits players via fear of missing out tactics, and while you have backup plans to print these cards in Magic form if they turn out to be too powerful, that in itself is a problem. All these playable cards should be available in Magic regardless of how strong they are, and by sidestepping the issue at hand, it feels like you are just ignoring our concerns. By going off on a tangent about buy a box promos and novel exclusives in an attempt to move our attention away from the mechanically unique cards that you are trying to release with the Sacred Lairs. The rest of the video is a lot of fluff, and I'll link it down below if you guys want to watch through it, but honestly, I don't think it's worth your time. As of right now, they have disabled the comment section and the ratings for their video, because that is a great way to start a conversation with the players. Let's make it so that they cannot voice their concerns, and let's make it so they can't see whether they enjoyed or disliked what was being said. Moving on to our next story is the Rules Committee's decision not to ban these cards and why they had decided not to do so. I'll link it down below if you guys want to have a full read-through of everything, but I'm just going to be picking out the parts that are relevant to our current scenario. But let's start with the very beginning. Our decision doesn't reflect an endorsement of these cards, but what we believe is best for Commander in the long run. If you'd like to understand how we arrived at this decision, we encourage you to read on. We identified 3 major concerns during the course of these discussions, and we'll address each and how they relate to Commander below. They are 1. The availability of these cards is problematic. 2. The existence of non-Magic IPs should be discouraged. And 3. Negan is a dubious character. There's no support in the Commander philosophy document for banning these cards. They certainly present no mechanical difficulties, and taken simply as cards, don't come close to fitting any criteria we have for banning. However, as we are always seeking to improve the document, we discuss whether banning these cards could fit under new philosophical criteria, and whether using the ban list in this way was appropriate. No one is saying that these cards are game-breaking because of their mechanic, or that we should ban them because of their power level. That's not the point. The issue is that by not banning these cards, you set a precedent that gives the go-ahead to Wizards to say that they are able to print out and continue with these business practices that exploit the Commander player base through use of predatory sale tactics by exploiting fear of missing out tactics to your player base that you are meant to protect. As I mentioned earlier in the video, the poster boys for these franchises will never be weak, because the people who authorized the collaboration will never agree to having weak collaboration cards. They won't let their main character be a crappy representation inside any shape or form, because why would you ever do that? So unless players give in to their fear of missing out, they'll be spending lots of money later on when these cards are scarcely available, thus increasing their price. I'm only going to go through point 1 of their statement because, honestly, it's the only one that I care about, and 2 and 3 mean nothing to me. I'm perfectly okay with Magic experimenting with crossover IPs as long as there is a Magic equivalent. And in terms of the Negan character being duelist, I know he is a murderous, rapist, evil character inside the show, but he's also very fictionist, so I find it very hard to get emotional over something like his inclusion. However, I will say that I do plan on making a lot of Commander videos later on this channel, but I will never use the cards that I've gotten from the VIP boosters that were created by Noah Bradley, who is a very real person, is an actual predator, and I do not endorse or condone anything that he does. A concern of many players is that these cards would not be widely available, and for some countries, only available through third-party sellers. They worry that this model will be repeated in the future. We've heard you loud and clear on the issue. Because the cards are mechanically unique, this is the major problem most folks have. We wish that all of our friends around the globe have access to these cards. However, the Rules Committee of its own accord can't solve that problem. What we can do, what we have already done, is add our voice to yours. Since this issue broke, we have been in contact with well-placed people at Wizards of the Coast to make sure that they understand your displeasures and where it comes from, as well as urging that they work towards a solution. Like I said before, the issue isn't the fact that it's just limited by territory. It's the fact that this is a timed release, which after the 12th of October will be very hard to find and will never be printed again unless AMC decide that they want to do this collaboration again, or the people at Wizards decide to print a Magic equivalent, which I think should have happened first. There should have been no reason for there to be a pecking order to this. You print the Magic equivalent either at the same time as these cards, or you print them first and then give them different skins later on. Also, why are you asking Wizards to fix the problem? From my understanding, the reason there's an external rules committee is because you can fix it on your end without needing any input from Wizards. I'm happy that you've spoken on our behalf to some people at the company, but I believe you failed to address the issue of it being a timed release in addition to it being a sleazy sales tactic that preys upon our community. While we understand why people are concerned about such limited availability, we don't believe that the problem applies to Commander in the same way it does to tournament formats. Successful tournament formats require generally equal and complete access to cards. But one of the themes that we've reiterated since the earliest days of the format is that you don't need access to every card in order to have fun playing Commander. The focus of Commander being on non-tournament play, plus the enormous card pool available where almost everything goes, means that unique cards floating around don't present the same kind of problem. The stakes in a Commander game is the fun of the participants, and that doesn't require all the cards. Again, not the point. We are mad because this is going to set a precedent for cards that are mechanically unique to be released in this way, that it preys upon consumers and the Commander player base through sleazy tactics that are considered predatory and exploits a person's fear of missing out. A problem we see with adopting a bland philosophy based on card availability is explaining it down the road. If, a year from now, someone stumbles upon a copy of these cards, tries and use it, and discovers that it is banned in Commander, they will ask why. And the explanation is unsatisfactory. People didn't like how they were allocated. This does not make a lot of sense to the person who is holding the cards and who doesn't own many other cards that may be out of reach for them. We want people to be able to play the cards they own and only resort to bans when it's problematic for the health of the format, not the wider ecosystem. Hypothetically, that one guy who buys a secret lair and 1 year from now tries to play Commander is going to be pretty upset about the fact that he can't play the card. This isn't just a matter of allocation. It's about allowing Wizards to take advantage of the Commander player base using predatory sell tactics. These cards are in no way a threat to the health of Commander. In fact, we see it as just the opposite. We're the only format that could bear the weight of this kind of experimentation. This is the format in which Crab Tribal is just as valid as Blood Pod. Adding a few quirky cards that aren't ubiquitously available doesn't threaten that. The cards were never the issue. It's how that they're exploiting us using FOMO tactics as well as predatory techniques. And also, let me just tell you now, why are we letting them experiment with this? The experimentation should have been done in research and development through playtesting before it gets to us. Why are we the ones who have to experiment with their little science project and then voice our concerns back there? It should be at a satisfactory level before it hits us, and then we can voice our concerns afterwards, not the other way around. One of the calls from the community was that we should ban these cards to send a signal to Wizards of the Coast for a blatantly commercial act. First of all, we don't think it's appropriate to tell them how to run their business. That's way outside the scope of our charter. Second, the banned list isn't an appropriate vehicle to voice our displeasure over something, nor is using it as punishment. The banned list is an abstract construct to incorporate decision makers. The right path is to walk the one we've gone down. Real change happens from real conversation with real people, which we have been doing since the news broke. Finally, attempting to send a signal would be doomed to fail. It will not have the effect people hope. The primary goal of these cards is almost certainly new player acquisition. Wizards hopes to lure some Walking Dead fans into Magic, and any interest from Commander players is just a small bonus. Banning the cards until functional reprints are available doesn't do much either. I don't know who these people are, but I'm not asking you to tell Wizards how to run their business. We only expect you to do what's right for the community and the format by preventing the circulation of cards that can only be gained through the exploitation of a player's fear of missing out. I agree with you that the gathering of new players and generating interest inside a different IP is always good for the community, because we're able to bring more people to the table, the game will be more lively, we'll have more people to play with, it's always a good time. But you have to be freaking kidding me if you think for a second that the primary goal of this product is player acquisition. I don't know what kind of smooth talk the people at Wizards have put you through, but if they manage to convince you that their goal is anything other than to generate more revenue and money, you are clearly being led down the wrong path. If the sole goal is player acquisition, then why is this product $50? Surely, if it was cheaper, it would be more readily available. People from the IP won't buy 5 pieces of cardboard for €50 because, you know what, that seems kind of crazy. What kind of people will spend €50 on cardboard? Oh, of course, Magic the Gathering people. And why is it that we only have such a small time frame to purchase these cards, if not for the fact that they want to put pressures onto the players to either make a choice now, so that they don't have time to think it through? That's it for my thoughts on everything that has transpired in the last week or so. Please let me know down below in the comments what you guys think about this, and how do you think they can fix the situation? Because to me, it feels like this is a situation that can be easily remedied, either by making everything on a limited print run, making it silver bordered, or number 3, since all of these things are probably already printed already, it's unreasonable to have Wizards go back and change them all to silver border. That's fine. Make this the only time this happens. Make it so that you print out the Magic equivalent afterwards as well. That's how the situation can be fixed. Until next time, everyone, look after yourselves.